Hi, my name is Madison Melvin, and my presentation is on Alzheimer's disease and its relationship with exercise. What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior. Symptoms eventually grow severe enough to interfere with daily tasks. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia, accounting for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. It is not a normal part of aging. The greatest known risk factor is increasing age, and the majority of people with Alzheimer's are 65 and older. If it affects a person under 65, it's considered to be younger onset Alzheimer's, also referred to as early onset Alzheimer's. This is a progressive disease that worsens over time. In its early stages, memory loss is mild, but with late-stage Alzheimer's, individuals lose the ability to carry on a conversation and respond to their environment. On average, a person with Alzheimer's lives 4 to 8 years on average after diagnosis, but can live as long as 20 years depending on other risk factors. Here we have a chart that shows the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease and looking towards the future. The number of Americans living with Alzheimer's is growing fast. An estimated 6.5 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's in 2022. As you can see in this graph on the left, by 2025, the number of people aged 65 and older with Alzheimer's is projected to reach around 7 million, almost a 22% increase from the 5.8 million affected in 2020. By 2050, the number is projected to reach 13.8 million. As you can see on the right, between 2020 and 2025, every state across the country is expected to experience an increase of at least 6.7% in the number of people with Alzheimer's. These projected increases are solely due to the projected increases in the population aged 65 and older in these states. So here we have the science behind Alzheimer's disease. Research conducted to date has shown that multiple factors may contribute to the pathology of Alzheimer's, but most efforts have been focused on two proteins, amyloid and tau. Amyloid beta helps the brain recover from injury and protects against bacteria, viruses, and tumors. When errors occur in the production, it can stick to itself and form long chains called oligomers. These can combine with one another and form larger structures or clumps called amyloid plaques. Research has been done that supports investigating the effectiveness of removing amyloid from the brain, which is called the amyloid hypothesis. Tau is the other protein that is thought to be associated with the neurodegeneration that causes Alzheimer's. Tau acts as a key component of a neuron's cytoskeleton that gives neurons their shape and helps them carry out their jobs. It's very sensitive to changes in the brain. Changes such as amyloid buildup can cause tau to become damaged and a neuron's cytoskeleton to fall apart. Tau can also stick to itself to form tau oligomers, which can spread throughout the brain. These also build up to form neurofibrillary tangles. These tangles gather inside of neurons, disrupting how they communicate and causing them to die. Here we have some symptoms of Alzheimer's that depends on which stage they're in. So for the mild stage, symptoms include forgetting material that was just read, difficulty finding the right words, losing or misplacing valuable objects, issues remembering new names, difficulty to work, do social tasks, or handling their finances. In the moderate stage, symptoms can include forgetting personal history, information, or events, being moody or withdrawn, confusion where they are, trouble with bladder or bowel control, changes in sleep, or personality and behavior changes. In the severe stage, we can see loss of awareness of recent experiences or surroundings. They require constant assistance with daily personal care, difficulty communicating, and loss of physical abilities. Epidemiological investigations have provided robust evidence that behavioral and environmental factors have key roles in the disease pathogenesis and progression. Many risk factors could contribute to the development of Alzheimer's and also be regarded as the symptoms simultaneously. Accurate diagnosis is very important for those individuals suffering from cognitive dysfunction. Evidence-based prevention strategies in line with the potential link between modifiable risk factors and late-onset Alzheimer's need to be explored in future studies. Risk factors mainly include pre-existing diseases, unhealthy lifestyles, and environmental exposures, while some factors concerning psychosocial conditions as well as healthy lifestyles might protect against Alzheimer's. While there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease yet, there are medications that can help control or slow its symptoms for a time and help manage some conditions. Treatments may change disease progression, and drug and non-drug options may help symptoms. People with Alzheimer's have low levels of a key nerve messenger called acetylcholine, which is important for memory and thinking. Cholinesterase inhibitor drugs make more of that messenger available by slowing its breakdown, enabling greater cell-to-cell communication, and slowing the process of cognitive impairment in some patients with early to middle stage Alzheimer's disease. Some drugs protect brain cells by regulating a nerve communication chemical called glutamate that is released in great quantities by Alzheimer's damaged cells. Glutamate is normally involved with learning and memory, but when released in excess by damaged cells, it attaches to docking sites called NMDA receptors that turn into accelerate cell damage. There is one FDA drug that combines cholinesterase inhibitors and glutamate inhibitors. It both prevents the breakdown of acetylcholine in the brain and appears to protect the brain's nerve cells against the excess amounts of glutamate. Each drug has side effects that affect exercise response. Cholinesterase inhibitors cause nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, decreased appetite, muscle cramps, fatigue, dizziness, and more. Glutamate inhibitors also cause nausea, vomiting, and dizziness, but also decrease lung function, abdominal pain, inflammation of the liver, and elevated liver enzymes. Namazaret causes increased weight, loss of bladder control, back pain and bruising, as well as nausea, vomiting, and dizziness, and loss of appetite like the others. Studies have shown that physical activity can reduce the likelihood of Alzheimer's. Exercise could help diminish the occurrence. The risk of Alzheimer's can be lowered by 45% with physical activity. There are 6 ways that exercise helps people with Alzheimer's disease. As many as 30% of people living with Alzheimer's will experience major depression. Physical exercise stimulates the production of hormones and neurotransmitters associated with memory and mood. Restlessness and wandering occurs at any stage of the disease. A person who expends energy on exercise may be less likely to wander or be jittery than someone who is sedentary. As the disease progresses, the ability to walk and carry out daily tasks begin to decline. To better maintain a quality of life, every effort must be made to better preserve physical balance, strength, and coordination. Physical exercise can improve balance by strengthening the muscles in the legs, torso, and spine. Poor cardiovascular health has been long associated with cognitive decline, irrespective of mental status. Routine exercise, along with diet and weight loss, is central to the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular diseases associated with diminished blood flow to the brain. Sleep deprivation is associated with fatigue, irritability, depression, lack of motivation, clumsiness, and more. Exercise is one way to help overcome sleeping problems. Routine exercise may also prevent or reverse the loss of cognitive function. Most of the current evidence suggests that aerobic exercise can help adults who have mild cognitive impairment as a result of age and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's affects exercise response in a couple of key ways. Individuals that are in the preclinical and early stages are much more likely to understand and tolerate exercise procedures more than individuals later in the disease course. Things to look for and to be aware of those individuals later in the disease course are having trouble with balance, muscle weakness, bladder and bowel control, and remembering or comprehending instructions given. So here we have an exercise prescription for somebody who is battling with Alzheimer's. For aerobic, we're going to do 3 days per week of prolonged rhythmic activities using large muscle groups for about 30 to 60 minutes at 40 to 59% of their heart rate reserve. For resistance training, we're going to do this for 2 to 3 days per week at 40 to 50% of their 1 RM. We're going to be doing weight machines and resistance devices for 1 to 3 sets at 8 to 12 repetitions. For flexibility, we're going to do this for 2 to 3 days per week. We're going to stretch to the point of slight discomfort, and we're going to do slow static stretches for all major muscle groups. For each stretch, we're going to hold it for 10 to 30 seconds at 2 to 4 repetitions. For balance, we're also going to do this for 2 to 3 days per week at 30 to 49% of their heart rate reserve. We're going to do static, dynamic, and other stretching. We're going to do this for 1 to 3 sets at 8 to 12 repetitions. High-intensity exercise testing, as during a maximal stress test, is safe unless there are balance, muscle, or coronary contradictions. Cycle ergometry may be more effective and less painful procedure for some individuals with comorbid conditions that increase pain during exercise testing. For all procedures, it is recommended to allow individuals to warm up at a light intensity level according to the individual's level of impairment and functional status, and to provide a sufficient period for cooldown while closely monitoring vital signs. Some exercise considerations. There is growing evidence that individuals with Alzheimer's disease can realize benefits of exercise through improved aspects of physiological and brain health. Whether an individual can perform exercise activities on their own depends on the severity of the disease. Long, continuous bouts of exercise are more likely to be helpful and safe in preclinical and early stages of the disease, and less likely to be feasible during later stages of the disease. Targeting multiple modes of activity might be the most effective for enhancing balance, flexibility, strength, and endurance. Adequate warm-up and cool-down periods with monitoring of vital signs are critical for minimizing safety concerns. Exercise prescription should always be performed with the consultation of the individual's physician and/or neuropsychologist. There may be benefits of exercising and training with the caregiver to help provide support, motivation, and monitoring of safety. Exercising in the morning hours might be easiest and most beneficial, as morning is often when an individual is demonstrating the lowest severity of symptoms. Exercising in nursing homes, memory clinics, or senior care facilities is encouraged as long as there are properly trained staff to monitor progress and safety. So for my case study, I have Barb, who is a 74-year-old woman who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease 4 years ago. She is currently in the moderate stage of the disease. She is seen by her physician every year, being cleared for exercise every time. Her medical history is clean, as she has been very healthy her whole life. Barb was a collegiate soccer player, so when she was younger she was very active. Ever since she became a grandmother 10 years ago, she hasn't been as physically active because she was so attentive towards her kids. When she got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, she got put into a nursing home, so there hasn't been any tracking of her daily activities. Barb wants to gain overall muscular strength back and be able to walk without her cane. So for her exercise testing, I decided to do the 6-minute walk test for her aerobic, body weight squat test for resistance, the sit and reach test for flexibility, and the standing balance test for balance. For her exercise prescription, for aerobic, I'm going to have her do a 45-minute walk at 50% of her HRR for 3 days per week. Resistance, we're going to do 3 sets at 10 repetitions of body weight squats, arm curls, and calf raises performed at 45% of her 1RM for 3 days per week. Flexibility, we're going to do 2 days of yoga, stretching to the point of slight discomfort, holding each stretch for 30 seconds at 4 repetitions. For balance, we're going to do 3 sets at 8 repetitions of sit to stands, leg raises, and 1-foot stands, performed at 40% of her heart rate reserve for 2 days per week. So to sum everything up about Alzheimer's disease, it's a progressive disease that worsens over time. There is no cure to the disease. Physical activity can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Exercise considerations are dependent on the patient and the stage of the disease that they are in. And we're going to be dealing with troubles with balance, muscle weakness, bladder and bowel control, and remembering. And here are all of my resources that I used for this presentation. Thank you for watching.